Over on Jaguar Gatorade, a new college football video is out. In this video, we talk about the reverse Aaron Judge game, and how one time in 1995, one ABC affiliate decided to show the end of a college football game instead of the start of the World Series. Click the card in the upper right corner to watch. And now, on with our feature presentation. I think that Sunday was the day that the tide finally turned, and that the public perception finally did a complete 180. I think that Sunday was the day that everything I knew for quite some time, or at the very least, thought for quite some time, came to fruition, where everyone else is starting to realize it too. Because for all the great publicity that Dan Campbell has received in his time as the Lions head coach, from turning the culture around, to his memorable locker room speeches and press conferences, to his Hard Knocks appearances that made you want to run through a brick wall for the guy, I think people are starting to finally realize that maybe, just maybe, Dan Campbell is an absolutely terrible head coach. I feel like I'm watching Gus Bradley 2.0 to a T. Last coach was terrible, new coach comes in that has a rah-rah attitude with arguably the least talented team in football on paper, they win games in the second half of the season after going winless in the first half, he's super easy to root for, and you're waiting for year 2 just to see where he can take the team, because the players are really buying in. And then, year 2 rolls around and you realize, hey, wait a second. He has no idea how to manage a game. Because if he was a good head coach, what happened on Sunday wouldn't have happened, where a rookie quarterback taken on the 3rd day of the draft completes 81% of his passes. What happened on Sunday wouldn't have happened, where you get shut out while allowing nearly double the penalty yards of the opposition. What happened on Sunday wouldn't have happened, where you set the record for futility by going 0 for 6 on 4th down. And what happened on Sunday wouldn't have happened, where you called one of the stupidest plays of the entire season, in what feels like an ever-growing list of dumb decisions that made Lions fans feel so frustrated that they wanted to resort to cannibalism and bite off Dan Campbell's kneecaps. Because we need to talk about one of those 4th down plays that left just about everyone baffled, including myself. For those who aren't watching this in the immediate aftermath of the game, here's a brief recap of how we got to this point. It's October 9th, 2022. It's week 5 of the NFL season, and we head up north to Foxborough for this interconference matchup between the Detroit Lions and the New England Patriots. Both of these teams sit at 1-3, so to say that this is a must-win game for both of these clubs would be an understatement. If you're 2-3, you at least have a shot at the playoffs. Heck, 5 teams made it last year in 2021 with a 2-3 start, including the Patriots, Steelers, Chiefs, Eagles, and 49ers. But if you start 1-4, forget about it, as it's essentially a death sentence that means you're thinking about the next NFL draft. Not a single team to start 1-4 made the playoffs in 2021, and only twice has a team overcome this start since 2017, with one of those times being in 2020 with the Washington football team, where the whole division stunk and where a below 500 record won it all. In other words, the importance of this game for both of these teams cannot be overstated, as for all intents and purposes, the season was on the line. And early on, it's the Patriots who are on the front foot. The Lions blew opportunity after opportunity. They missed a 4th down conversion near midfield on drive number 1. They got into the red zone and had Jared Goff throw an interception on drive number 2. And they got into field goal range and had Jared Goff get sacked to take them out of that range on drive number 3. Still, despite the blown opportunities, the Lions defense, for the most part, has done its job so far. They've only allowed 6 points, and even got an interception when Deshaun Elliott made a nice diving catch and got his first ever pick as a Lion. With the ball at midfield, you've got a golden opportunity here to, at the very least, get 3 points and cut into the deficit. The good news is that they do get into field goal range. The bad news is that, well, I have no clue what Craig Reynolds is doing here. Instead of just running forward, let's sidestep and run backwards and try to beat the path to the sideline while running toward the side of the field with less room. The play loses a whopping 7 yards, bringing up a 4th and 9 situation. Well, it stinks that you're unable to keep the drive alive, but hey, you've set yourself up for 3 points to cut that deficit a little bit. It's a nice, relatively makeable 49-yard field goal. Just take the 3 points, and we've got a ball game again. Just take the 3 points, and oh, they're going for it. They're actually going for it on 4th and 9. Makes you wonder why, if this was 4-down territory all along, that you call that awful play on 3rd down instead of calling a play where it's tough to lose yards, like a handoff that's not to the side. There's no way this is going to work. I already know it, but there's no way this horrible idea is actually going to work, right?
Let's get to the 23 for a first down. Goff under pressure, lost the football. Patriots recover.
Why am I not even surprised? Dan Campbell, you absolute moron, you've done it again.
It's in the hands of Kyle Duggar, and he will take it all the way for a New England defensive touchdown.
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something to look bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something to look awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're taking a look at the mind of Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell. He's made quite a few absolutely head-scratching decisions over his short head coaching career thus far. His timeout management last Thanksgiving was pathetic. His decision against the Vikings last season to go for it and call a passing play up by 2 on his own 28-yard line was infuriating. His decision 2 weeks ago against the Vikings to kick a field goal for some reason, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner, was so bad that it might have single-handedly cost his team the game. And this decision against the Patriots is up there with some of the worst, because it truly does not make any sense, and completely changed the momentum and the complexion of the game. So with that being said, let's take a look at why going for it on 4th and 9 instead of kicking a 49-yard field goal is a really bad idea. And for this one, we have to take a look at, well, what had to work for each of these plays to succeed? What are your odds of getting a 49-yard field goal to go? And what are your odds of getting a 4th down conversion from this far out to go? And remember throughout all of this, that if it was truly 4-down territory all the way, that the 3rd down play that Campbell and his team decided to go with was a run to the side, where the running back is starting off going laterally, meaning that if it fails, you're losing 3 or 4 yards right away. Granted, even in the worst case scenario, I don't think anyone expected a 7-yard loss, but it's not exactly the smartest play in the world to call in true 4-down territory. Let's start with the odds of hitting a 49-yard field goal. The Lions just signed a kicker by the name of Michael Badgley. Over his last 10 kicks from the 40 to 49-yard range, which is what this kick was, he hit on 9 of them. What you're watching right now is a compilation of just some of those kicks. In other words, he's fairly reliable from that range, and can hit from that range. It begs the question of why you sign a kicker if you don't immediately trust him, and seeing as he hasn't done anything yet, he's giving you no reason to doubt you. Why would you sign a kicker, or any player for that matter, if you don't believe in him? In the last 2 teams he's played for, the Indianapolis Colts and the Chicago Bears, the man's hit on 90% of his kicks from this range, and you don't trust him? Plus, this whole situation makes me wonder how the heck Campbell's mind operates. 2 weeks ago against the Vikings, he decides to try a 54-yard field goal, despite the fact that trying the field goal made no sense, despite the fact that you could have gone for it only needing 4 yards, and despite the fact that his kicker at the time, Austin Seibert, had never successfully made a field goal from that range in a competitive game in his life, meaning that for this completely unnecessary play to work, he had to hit his career-long in an extremely low-reward, high-risk play. Yet on Sunday, against the Patriots, Campbell decides to opt against a 49-yard field goal, despite the fact that his kicker has been incredibly reliable from that range over the past year and has hit that kick many times before, despite the fact that taking the points there made complete sense, and despite the fact that going for it when needing 9 yards is a significantly tougher task that has an extremely low success rate. It makes no sense whatsoever. If you presented the 2 scenarios to a person on the street and told them that one time Campbell went for it and the other time he kicked the field goal, odds are they would get it wrong because they have common sense. Because when it made sense for Campbell to go for it and not trust his kicker, he didn't. And when it made sense for Campbell to kick the field goal and trust his kicker, he didn't. It's like that episode of SpongeBob where they pretend it's opposite day. Except Campbell decided to do this in an actual NFL game. But that's only one part of the equation. Because let's talk about the second part, where not only are you going to deny the Money Badger the opportunity to try a kick from that range, but you're going to go for it on 4th and 9, thinking that that was your better chance for success. Since 2021, when the Lions hired Dan Campbell and then traded for Jared Goff, there have been 17 situations where Detroit faced either a 3rd and 9 or a 4th and 9, and they put the ball in their quarterback's hands. Want to know how many of those 17 tries have been converted? 3. That's it. A whopping 3 out of 17, to which you're watching a compilation of those plays right now. Getting 9 yards on one play, as things stand, is already a tough task. So to pass that up when you don't have to, and when you've had no success in these situations before, is absolutely baffling. Keep in mind when you're watching this, that Badgley's field goal percentage from that 40 to 49 yard range over the past year is 90%, and the wind situation was not bad, as from all indications, the wind would have been a non-factor. And the Lions passed up a play that worked 90% of the time and resulted in points for a play that worked 17% of the time. That's not a slight difference in the percentages. That's a gulf in the percentages. That's not like trying to give someone directions to a ride of the Magic Kingdom in Disney World and they wind up in front of It's a Small World instead of Peter Pan's Flight. That's like trying to give someone directions to Peter Pan's Flight and they wind up in freaking Epcot. Like, that's a big difference. Yet Campbell decided that doing that, instead of kicking the field goal, was his best play. A 4th and 9 pass where everyone's running into each other on the patterns and where half of the receivers are running routes that are nowhere near the sticks. After the game, Campbell was asked about this decision, and I just don't get his logic in the presser whatsoever. He said, "I had a yard marker I knew we needed to get inside of in order to feel good about it, to swing away. Otherwise, take your chances with the offense." But again, that raises the question that you felt good about Cyber 2 weeks ago from 54 yards out, hitting from a distance that he never made before in his life, even though he's been struggling all season. And by that logic, it made it seem like regardless of the distance needed, that he was going to go for it from that yard line. That's what he means by otherwise, take your chances with the offense. If you're at the 32 yard line and it's a 49 yard kick, take your chances. 4th and 9? 4th and 19? 4th and 29? We're going for it? Like, you see why I'm concerned about Campbell actually being a good head coach, right? This is just a complete lack of situational awareness on so many levels, to the point where I just don't know what he's doing. Because going for it here made no sense when you weigh the percentages and when you think about common sense. So what do we learn from all this? If you have 2 options, and one option gives you guaranteed points if it works out, and has a 90% success rate, while the second option does not give you guaranteed points if it works out, and has a 17% success rate, take the first option. Don't sign a player that you don't feel confident in, especially if said player hasn't even given you a sample size yet to form a negative opinion on him. Have some semblance of situational awareness, because it will come in handy. And the fastest way for people to question just how good of an in-game coach you are is by continually messing up in these situations, especially when you pick the wrong thing from a similar yard line 2 weeks ago, and you either learn nothing from that there, or you learn the complete wrong lesson from that debacle. Because when all of these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Get your official Jaguar Gator 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaguarGator9. To see college football videos, subscribe to JaguarGator8. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. So you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.